Behind me stood the first Parliament of the United Canada. This was the site of the first Parliament of United Canada before it was burned to the ground by an angry English-speaking mob in the night of the 25th of April 1849. And most people walking here, they don't know that there is a parliament under their feet. So in order to understand what happened that night, we need to go back in time more than a decade ago. And allow me to put some historical context in here. Oh, I got myself a fresh coffee and it's time to tell an interesting story. So we are in the pre-Confederation era. The British authorities here in Canada just crushed the two rebellions of 1837 and 1838, or the uprisings of the French-speaking patriots and some English Republicans that were inspired by the American Revolution. And these uprisings, they were fueled by the sense of patriotism and nationalism, and because also the legislative assemblies in Lower Canada, Quebec today, and Upper Canada, Ontario today, they were seen as corrupt and they were not seen as responsible towards their electors. The two rebellions were brutally crushed and they were devastating, especially for the French Canadian speakers who had a lot of losses in properties and lives as well. Following the two uprisings and the British authority retaliation against the insurgents, which was devastating, especially for the French-speaking Canadians who had enormous losses in properties, in money and in lives, the British authority, or the Crown, they sent Lord Durham to investigate and to make his report about the rebellions. In his report, Lord Durham advised that the two colonies will be united into one colony, into one Canada, and they should be given a parliament. And it became official by the Union Act in 1840. So the two provinces were united into one. It was called United Canada, and they were given a parliament. It was the first ever responsible parliament for the Canadian people. And it was here in Montreal. It was chosen as the political capital of the country back then. And the first ever Parliament of Canada was just behind that building, just in front of us there. And here we are. There stood the first Parliament of the United Canada. Okay, so we are walking here above the Parliament of Canada. And these structures that you see here, these were the rooms of the Parliament. Like for example here, Legislative Council Chamber. You see those structures there? They were representing some rooms of the Parliament. And now it is a square, it is a park. Picnic tables. Just imagine the chaos of that evening. The crowd shouting, the fire. And by the way, the fire spread to other buildings, not just the Parliament. As you walk here, you are walking in the heart of the Parliament, in the heart of fire of that night. Yeah, this is history here. You can imagine the Sir Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine is speaking in here, or Sir Robert Baldwin. Yes, this was the first Parliament of Canada here. That's where it stood. But by the way, it was a market before that. Okay, you see some historical. I see here some historical insights. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, the burning of the Parliament. So here, Louis-Joseph Papineau was the leader of the Republicans. Alan N. MacNab, the leader of the Anglo-Saxons. They were the Troy, what means the conservatives back then, who wanted to remain within the British Empire. And here the more moderate leaders, they were the co-prime ministers of the two Canadas. That's on the right, Robert Baldwin, yes, and Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine. Oh, nice. You can see the structure of the Parliament. the capital of the province of Canada. On the 25th of April 1849, the Governor General, Lord Elgin, was requested to come to the Parliament here exactly to sign a set of bills, to assign the set of bills. One of those bills was the Rebellion Losses Bill, which recompensates the French Canadians for the losses during the uprising and the retaliation that came afterwards. An act that the Anglo-Saxons or the English-speaking loyalists thought or saw it as a reward for treason. And as the Governor General was here signing the bills, the word spread quickly to the Anglo-Saxon neighborhoods of the city that the bill was gonna be officially a law. The Governor General left the Parliament at 6 p.m. and he was caught in some streets of the city. His path was blocked by the angry mobs. They started throwing eggs and stone at his carriage, and he was forced to flee and to gallop with his horse to his residence in Monkland. Word spread quickly, and the news reached more and more Anglo-Saxon neighborhoods of the city. So people decided to gather in like a half a mile from here in the field of Mars, following speeches, and people were angry. They were accusing the Governor General of treason and of recompensating the traitors. They marched from there to here. As they came to the Parliament, they surrounded it and they started by throwing stones through the window, throwing torches. Finally, they ended up by breaking in, setting fire inside, and unfortunately the whole library was burned to the ground. I think there's thousands of books was lost. When they were lost, the whole archive of the Upper and Lower Canada was burned in that place in there. You can imagine the mobs shouting with their torches at around 8 p.m. coming from that direction, from the field of Mars, from that direction, coming here with their torches in hand, all shouting. Now this little building is the historical center of Montreal. I was not allowed to film inside, unfortunately. I tried to picture the crowds coming from this direction towards the Parliament building out there. Now here we are walking towards the new temporary Parliament, where the representatives of the Canadian people held their meetings after the burning of the old one. And it was relocated from this direction, just less than a mile away, in what is called Marché Bonsecours Market. The old one was completely destroyed. There is no way to recover anything from it. It was all destroyed, and what started as a protest became a riot for 2 days. There was nothing to uncover from the old building. It was burned to the ground with zero chance of fixing or rebuilding anything. Maybe if the governor had a car like that, he would not be hit by eggs and stones. A few days later, the Canadian Parliament resumed its work from this building in here, the Bonsecours Market. Now it is a market inside. I can see. I don't know if I can film or not. So this was the Parliament, well, a temporary Parliament for a while. It is the Bonsecours Market. It had the meetings of the representatives of the people, the co-governors, for a while, but it was obvious that Montreal was not suited to be capital back then. Seeing the tension between the two communities that they were living together in the island, the Anglo-Saxon Protestant, the French-speaking Catholics, the Parliament alternated its work after that between Quebec City and Toronto, before the two provinces would be separated again during the Confederation era, and each province will have its own parliament and its own governor. And we are here in the old neighborhood. That's history. So I will end today's story here in front of the old temporary Parliament of Canada. Just think about it. If those events of the night of the 25th of April didn't happen, would Montreal today would be the capital or the national capital of Canada? What do you think?